What's up, everybody? This is Warren Hampton. We are here at the Salvation Army Croc Center in South Phoenix in the boxing gym. So excited to be here for this sermon because it's about meekness. This is one of my favorite Beatitudes. I love preaching this because many people don't know what meekness is. And so for the sake of, a dope sermon illustration, we are here because sometimes you need to pull your punches. You don't need to knock life out or knock people out. And you need to know how to harness your power. And so I want to get right into this message. There have always been those who have attempted to conquer the earth. We have seen the likes of pharaohs of Egypt, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, the Caesars of Rome, Adolf Hitler, maybe Donald Trump, etc. All these people who tried to conquer in power have failed dramatically. And history shows that. Each of these men who almost did it shared one thing in common. Though they controlled huge armies and had great power, they did not have rule over their own spirit. In the end, their kingdoms were lost and they were ruined. Part of the problem is our concept of meekness. Somebody say meekness. What we usually associate with meekness is not what the Bible teaches as meekness. See, meekness is a word in the Greek that means the word picture is like a bridled horse that you restrain the power. It's obedient by the bit. It is literally bridled strength or strength under control. That's what meekness is. Now you got to ask yourself, do I have meekness? Am I a meek person? Or in other words, how I like to say it is I could go off, but I won't go off. I could give you these hands. Try Jesus, not me, because I throw hands. This is what meekness is about. You can give people that warning, like, listen, I'm saved, I'm holy, but I'm a little hood too. So don't get it twisted. So here's the thing. It's not anything wimpish or passive, and it is anything but wimpish or passive. This is not the quality most people associate with conquering the world, but this is how Jesus came into the world. Matthew 5 says this, "Blessed are the meek, happy are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Meek is characterized by being humble, gentle, or mild. And here Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, remember I said that this would be his first message to his believers. They would hear what he would preach and it would resemble Moses and show the difference between religious living like the Pharisees and the Sadducees versus the worldly living of people who did not have God in their life, or what we call pagans or unbelievers or heathens as they were called. It was just people that didn't have faith. But here Jesus comes to give the kingdom way, the righteous way, not the religious way, the word way, not the worldly way. And so he quotes Psalm 37. They would have understood this in verses 9 through 11. In Psalm 37, listen here. "For evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait on the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall be no more. Indeed, you will look carefully for this place, but it shall be no more. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. Blessed are the meek, for you shall inherit the earth." I don't know about you, but I don't think anybody's ever promised us to inherit the entire earth. So, like those other men who tried to conquer, this is not a kingdom political or military move that Jesus is trying to make. And that's why they crucified him, because they wanted Jesus to overthrow the Roman government. But he came to establish the kingdom's government. And so through humility and meekness is how he did it. It says the humble will wait on God and will inherit the earth. They will inherit the land. And we know that the Hebrew people had those covenantal promises to reign over all the earth as God's chosen people. And they would have said, oh yeah, I've heard that before in the Old Testament. So he's bringing it back. And so just like the poor in spirit, the first and the third Beatitudes are so closely connected together. Those who are meek are truly humble. They're truly gentle and have a proper appreciation of their position. And it doesn't mean weak. Meekness is not weakness. It's an attitude of the soul toward another when that other is in a state of activity towards it. So if somebody can be pressing you and hating on you and doing all this trying to control you and you just fall back, or when narcissists try to get a rise out of you, if good or bad, and you respond, that is you playing into them. But meekness is saying, I'm going to be quiet, I'm not going to say anything, and I'm going to diffuse the situation. I'm going to pull my punches so that you know that I can knock you out, but you want that response. And people want us to get in our flesh and want us to get in our anger and want us to be offended and want to exercise our power so they can use it against us. And Jesus didn't do that. Even as a baby, he could have sneezed the wrong way and everybody could have died because of the power and the restraint. And so they didn't even want Jesus to come into the earth after 400 years of silence between the Old Testament and New Testament, and Jesus comes. They didn't want him to come as a baby. They wanted him to come as a full-grown man with a sword, slaying his enemies to establish the kingdom. But God does it the opposite way. It's an upside-down kingdom in the way in which the world that we know would try to exercise power, and that's not the way of God. He said, you will inherit the earth if you're meek. That means not even exercising your power over somebody. So this is the attitude that the disciples should have. That when a teacher is teaching, you sit there and listen. When a son or a daughter and a father are exercising parental authority, that's meekness. You submit to that authority. It's not condescending. It's you just saying, I recognize your authority and I'm going to get under it. I'm going to follow you. So we are meek before God and we are meek towards each other. And we must be humble before God and each other. That's the problem with this world. Everybody wants to exercise their power and show their followers and show really what they're doing is they're masking their shame and their insecurity by acting like they're bigger and badder than what they are. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. At the end of the day, your weakness will come out, and meekness is never that weakness. And so the English word meek has largely lost the fine blend of spiritual poise and strength meant by the master. He calls himself meek and lowly of heart. Even Mary was called meek and lowly. She was humble, and Moses was called meek. The Christian word, on the contrary, describes an inward quality that is related primarily to God. The mildness, the kindness represented by the classical word are founded in self-control or in a natural disposition. You see somebody say, oh, they're really meek. The Christian's meekness is based on humility, which is not a natural quality, but an outgrowth of a renewed nature. Because Jesus gave us new hearts and new minds, we have a new nature to be like him. We are new creations. If you did have anger issues before, he doesn't want you to still have those anger issues. You can be angry and sin not, but he doesn't want you exercising power over people just to prove you're stronger, you're better, you're badder than they are. Meekness is strength controlled. Is strength controlled. The meek are humble people. They have no need to prove their strength to others. They simply exhibit their quiet strength through the character of their lives. The meek and mild are humble, the humble people that raise others above themselves. We have no need to be number one or viewed as the greatest. The greatest strength is that which controls us and not which controls others. Is God the Lord over your life? Is he controlling your life? Are you submitted to his authority? Ali, the greatest of all time, he used to tell that he would walk in the gym and say, the champ is here. I done wrestle with an alligator. I done tussle with a whale. I done handcuff lightning, throw thunder in jail. Only last week I murdered a rock. I injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. Man, I'm so mean I make medicine sick. That's what Ali used to say. But Ali was using mental warfare to get into the minds of his enemy, or his opponents, not his enemies, but he was using these words and using this prowess, this power of his mouth to intimidate people. But really, I watched an interview a few weeks ago about Muhammad Ali. Really, he was one of the most meek and humble people in the entire world. And his life proves that. Outside of the ring. It's not just what he did in the ring. And our lives need to prove how we are great. Even when the disciples asked Jesus, who is the greatest in the kingdom? Jesus said, those who serve others. The greatest of you is a servant. So do we have control over our own spirit, or are we trying to control everybody else's moves? Like a city that is broken into and without walls is a man or a woman who has no control over his whole spirit. That is Proverbs 25:8. See, Christ's values are blessed are those who do these things. But the prideful countercultural values are let's be powerful, let's be important, let's show how strong we are, how many cars we got, how many women, how many men, how much money. That's not meekness. Our attitudes towards others are what meekness is. Are we teachable? Are we humble? Do we think we know everything? Or do we defend ourselves when we're wrong? That's not meekness. And so the counter thing that we're trying to give through these messages, the counter thing, not just the counter thing, but the counterculture, the countercultural mindset is the mind of Jesus. It's not only strength controlled, it's strength channeled. This is where meekness has its real power. It enables us to control ourselves and in the best way that gives the outcome for everybody, not just ourselves. It is a sad truth when you see someone trying to control others that have not learned how to control their self first. When people see us walk in a room and walk in the ring of life, they need to know that the King is here. He's in us. He's with us. So to be meek is to be like the Messiah. Jesus was meek and could have mocked the people that mocked him, but he didn't. He could have struck the people that struck him, but he didn't. He could have said, Father, forget them, for they know what they're doing. But he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That is meekness. He didn't exercise his strength. He was humble even to the point of death. That's why God exalted him to the highest point in the kingdom, the right-hand throne of God, when he sent himself in flesh. This is the gospel that we preach. But he didn't do it the way of the world. He did it the way of the kingdom. He was coming to show a new way, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to him but by the Father. So if Jesus gave up his glory to save us by grace, then we can give up our pride and not save our face. Even when people are lying about us, even when people are trying to control our own life and stop the things of God that we're doing, be meek. If Jesus bridled his omnipotent strength against people who did him wrong, we can surely bridle ours, because we could go off, but we shouldn't go off. I pray that you were humbled by this message like I was. Anytime I preach a message, I don't just want to preach it so that some others may be convicted, but it convicts me before I give it to you. And so I'm checking myself before I wreck myself, like Ice Cube says, and let's display the meekness of our Messiah, because the kingdom is now, but yet not yet. So people need to see what the kingdom looks like in earth before we have this new heaven and earth and Jesus comes back and does exercise authority. That's the thing about Jesus. He came humble the first time, but when he comes back the second time, he will come back with all power in his hands, and his enemies will see who is the greatest of all time, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. God bless y'all.